All right, so we're out here now. We're gonna get started with the painting process, and I'm gonna walk you what it looks like to just get going in this painting process. All the tools and accessories we typically use are gonna be available in the video description to purchase or to get more information about them. So check the video description below after this video, or you can go check out our store at store.theidahopainter.com to purchase paint life gear, tools, and accessories. But here we are, we're out here. How do you go about tackling a house like this alone or with a small crew? I just drove up, just started unpacking some of the tools, just gonna lay things out, and now we're gonna begin the painting process. One of the very first steps in this painting process is to get sprayers set up. I'm gonna be looking at this job alone. I'm gonna be painting today garage doors and the gables. I'm going to tackle those things first, and it's already noon, so I'm going to try to just do those today. We're going to show you what that looks like. The garage doors are one color, the gables are another color. I have multiple sprayers. You're going to be a lot faster, more efficient with multiple sprayers, but if you don't have multiple sprayers, you can do this just with one sprayer. I'm going to be using today a Titan 840 to reach up and do the high stuff with long hoses. I'm going to be using a Titan 410 to shoot those garage doors, and probably the man door on the side over there. But you need to get water going. We want to get a hose set up and multiple buckets set up with water, filling those buckets up. I'm not going to stand there and fill them up. We're just going to let the water trickle, start to fill them up, because if anything goes wrong, you need water. And you're also going to need water, to clean tools and clean sprayers if you only got one sprayer, and you're going to be shooting multiple colors. One of the other very first steps, we've got to get this thing ready to paint. And what I like to say is we need to do lights, numbers, and downspouts. So we got to get everything off the house that we don't want to paint. So I've got numbers on the house, I've got lights on the house, downspouts. We're going to remove the downspouts because we're going to spray them down on the ground. We want to be painting behind them. There's some flagpole that holder that holds the flag. So we're going to be removing, all those simple things. It's called lights, numbers, and downspouts. If I'm working alone, I'm going to go do that stuff first while my buckets are filling up, and then I'll get my sprayers ready. But I've got a helper today that's going to be getting the buckets ready, and then I'm going to be doing lights, numbers, and downspouts. So we're going to walk you through this process now and stop talking to show you what it looks like painting. I'm gonna start doing what we call lights, numbers, and downspouts, and this typically happens pretty fast. I'm gonna start with the numbers to just give you a pointer really quick. I'm gonna be taking off the numbers themselves in my tool bag. I always carry a Phillips head bit, so I'm gonna grab my Phillips head bit to remove the numbers. And if it's not your house, we've done this before. We'll pull the numbers off and we can't remember what the address is. You can go look at the mailbox, and the mailbox will tell you if there's a mailbox. But we run into situations where there was no mailbox, couldn't find the address. So take off your numbers and put them. I'll show you what I do. I'm going to remove them because we always take and repaint these numbers. These are black, kind of faded and stuff. We paint them an oil rub bronze color. I'm going to set them on a cardboard because I'm going to spray them with an oil rub bronze. I'm going to punch the screws right through the cardboard, and I'm going to install them on the cardboard, just what the address is. That way you won't forget what it is. So it's 2998. Just remove these. We're going to be painting the screws too, so we want the screws going right through the number. We'll just spray these right away so they have plenty of time to dry, and then we'll reinstall them after we're done painting. So I'm going to take this, set this, and I'm going to remove a couple other things out front and then get on to some spraying. All right, here's another thing. A lot of do-it-yourselfers, even professional painters, just paint right over something like that. I mean, I don't like to paint these things. Simple Phillips head screws. Just gonna remove these. here's another, just handy little trick. I always put my screws back in right where they came from, and then I'm going to put some tape, frog tape, right over the top of that and seal that so these don't get lost and they'll get in a bucket. I can't tell you how many times somebody sets this aside, the screws get lost in the grass or they get separated and then you can't find the screws to reinstall it properly, and that just goes into not painting a house efficiently. So I'm going to cover these things up with frog tape so they're stuck together. So I'm just going to set them inside of a bucket. Now this won't get lost and separated. You could also, write on here where it goes if you've got multiple the same item. There's only one flagpole holder, so I'm just going to set it in the bucket. Any other hardware is going to go right in that bucket. I'm going to start removing some of the lights. It's not much hardware on this house to remove, which is nice. Just a few things. There's only a couple downspouts. Lights are, some people will try to mask around them, but if the customer changes the lights a year later, then it's not painted behind the light. I always like to remove the light. I always take and stick my wire nuts back on. That way they protect the wires too, so they don't get painted. Definitely want to make sure your electricity, the power's off to the lights. Here's another thing I do, the nuts. You want to take and tape those to your light so they don't get separated either. All right, so one of the last things, when it comes to getting the house ready, not painting things you don't want to paint, is the downspouts. I do want to paint them, but I also want to paint behind them. There's chains on a lot of the house, so we just wrap some paper around the top of the chain so we don't get any paint on it. But we got a downspout here. So another thing I always carry in my tool bag is a 1/4-inch bit to take off downspouts. So a 1/4-inch nut driver. So I always remove them and then I'll screw them right back in where they came out. That way they get painted also. And then another important thing is to label this downspout. Where it came from. Once I get it off, you definitely want to make sure you dust the back sides of them. They're typically got spider webs all over them and everything, so that's why I have my gloves handy. And I always set them up and show you how we spray them. Eventually, when we get to spraying them, it's interesting how this was painted. The top portion was painted the same color as the fascia. I always paint the downspouts all one color all the way up. That's my style, how I like to do it. So it's ready to go. And I'll show you, I always take and label them. I'm just going to wipe it off, make sure there's nothing. So you can see here we have the backside of a downspout that was never painted by the painters. These downspouts were installed and they kind of brushed them, made a mess of them. But I'm going to take a piece of tape, and this is front side, front garage. So I'll just put a piece of tape inside that says what this is. Front garage downspout. You can use letters, numbers, whatever you want to use. Stick it inside the downspout. Otherwise, you don't want to get paint on it that covers it up where you can't read it. And it's good to go. I think I only got one other downspout to do. And then we're ready to start painting these doors right here. Another handy little tip, I keep a handful of these downspout screws, a little box of them, inside my vehicle, painting vehicle, because invariably you're going to drop one down the rocks or down the grass and it's not we're spending your time looking for them, you'll spend more time looking for the screw than you would if you just grabbed a new one. So there's just a couple bucks for a set of them. All right, we're gonna begin the process. I'm gonna get my helper today, Afton's helping me today. I'm gonna set her up with a bucket with a 4-inch roller and a 3-inch. We're gonna be using a Riverdale Chinex brush. When I'm doing exteriors, I'm always using Chinex. They clean up fast and easy. And with today's exterior paints and just a 2-gallon cut-in bucket, I'm gonna have Afton start going around and rolling the bottoms of the house to give it added protection there. She's gonna be hitting all the corner boards, flat boards, anything that she sees white that she can reach without getting on a ladder. I always have a tool bag with me. I'll just go over a few of the things in the tool bag that's just gonna help you out be a faster, more efficient painter. I always have a 2-edge knife, 5-in-1 tool. This actually has a blade on it, so if you need a blade at the same time, I typically got a pair of nippers for pulling off like staples, nails and stuff like that, and fascia and stuff like that from Christmas lights. Always have a Linbide scraper if I need to do any scraping. A lot of times if I've got to tighten your extensions or hand tight extensions, but sometimes you got to tighten them with a wrench. I always got a small wrench for lights and stuff like that that'll take that to get off. If I got to remove doors, hinge pin remover. You gotta have a hinge pin remover. There's a nail set in case I gotta set any nails. I always have a Sharpie marker because when I remove all the downspouts on the house, you need to label your downspouts or it's gonna absolutely be a nightmare installing your downspouts because you won't know where they go. Let's see, always have a Phillips head small screwdriver. Sometimes you're going to need, a Phillips head screwdriver, a pencil if I ever need any, if I'm doing any cutting or stuff like that. I always have a sanding block, sanding sponge inside my tool pouch. And I think I've just about touched on everything in there. Here's another small screwdriver, flat head, and for taking off switch plates if you've got to take off any switch plates. So that's just about it right there. Got my tool bag ready. Gonna set up the cut-in bucket now. So I'll walk you over and we'll go take a look at what it looks like to start to, what I call just pre-prime the house. And this is paint, it's not primer, but it's just adding an additional coat of paint in areas that are typically problem areas that get a lot of moisture and sun damage, etc. So here we go, let's take a look at that. So we're back on the back side of the house. The rest of the house is actually in really good shape. This side gets really beat by the sun. So there's a lot of sun and water damage. And so, we're just, priming. And we call it priming. This is actually just the paint and stuff, but it's the final step of our prep process before we spray. And you always want to do this step, now versus after you spray these troublesome areas. you'll see a color difference if you spray it and then go back and back brush it and stuff. So we want to spray it and leave it. So we definitely want it to be all of our back brushing done before we actually do any spraying. Like you can go back and hit all these bottom portions after you spray to give them a second coat, but you're going to see a color difference because of the sprayer atomizing the paint and changing the color. So it doesn't take long. It should only take, you know, somebody, an experienced painter, to hit the whole house. It shouldn't take them, you know, more than an hour to do this process on the whole house on an average size, you know, house. So I'm cruising along. This is the worst side. The rest of it, it's only been about an hour and this is almost done. We've got our sides of these windows right here are always, they're typically on a heat side like this. They're pretty dry, and you can see it like starting to open up. Bottoms here, usually are really dry. You need to seal them up with paint. So I'm sealing these ends up. And this is all typically as high as I can reach. If I got a lot of upper stuff, you're gonna wanna do the upper stuff with a ladder too before you start spraying. That's where it's nice to have a second person that can be doing all the high stuff while you start to get ready to spray. But right before I spray, I'll go up there and do all that high stuff down to my last corner. Again, I like to get down here, go slow, hit the bottom, get paint underneath it, up the sides. All right, so we've got about 2 hours into this prep process, getting ready to spray. After night, we've got all the pre-priming done. We've got lights, numbers, downspouts off, and we're ready to get to the spraying process. So we're gonna cut this video right here and stay tuned for the next part. And that's all about the spraying. We're getting ready to spray some doors and we're gonna be spraying the shakes. If you want to get notified when we come out with that video, it's going to be coming soon. You got to hit the subscribe button. You got to hit the notification bell. That way you get notified by email when we come out with the next video. It's almost done. So spraying a house with an airless sprayer. We're going to be using a Titan 840 and a Titan 410 to be doing the spraying on this house. We'll be doing it all alone, solo. So stay tuned for that video. If you got any questions and comments about this prepping process and getting ready to spray on this day right here, usually it takes about just a couple of hours to get ready to spray, and then I'll be spraying and doing what I'm doing today, and that'll be the end of this day. But stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave any questions and comments down in the comment section below. Check out our tool store, hats, accessories, all of our gear, theidahopainter.com or store.theidahopainter.com.